here we are in Cincinnati, Ohio at Furry Reality, and I have the pleasure of interviewing the furry celebrity, Uncle KAG.
I don't know if celebrity is the right word. I'm just an old guy that shows up at cons and I make noises with my face and people seem to like it when I do it.
Well, I found you delightful when you were chatting with Alkali last night.
Yes.
How often do you get together with Alkali?
We tend to run into each other 3 to 4 times a year. He's a fantastic man, excellent sense of humor, very quick wit. I absolutely love performing with him.
Do you end up getting injured when you run into him? He is a rather
he is a very,
large
very
fellow.
large man, but you also notice he's very kind of soft and squishy in the middle, so I just bounce off.
Oh, okay, that's very good. So, how did you get involved in the anthropomorphic community?
I go back a long time. What we call Anthropomorphics or Furry Fandom only really got its name around 1988, 1989, thereabout. It's always been around, just never was a name for it. In fact, I can point us back to the earliest days of human imagination. If you look at the earliest artwork, it was of animals. The oldest known piece of human artwork is a sculpture that was unearthed in Africa, and it depicts a human being with the head of a lioness.
Really?
So the oldest human artifact of human creation is an anthropomorphic character. So this fascination with animals as human beings and vice versa goes back till time immemorial. I got involved in 1989. I was at Worldcon in Boston was that year, and there was a little fan table that was set up, and it just said Furry Fandom. That's an odd sort of thing. Let me go check it out. And they had artwork that was really fantastic. These animal characters, and they had comics that caught my interest because prior to that, what we called funny animals, the animal characters, there were always coyotes falling off of cliffs and defying physics. Here, for the first time, I was seeing funny animals that didn't have to be funny. They were dynamic, they were interesting, they were telling fantastic stories. I got introduced to the artwork of Stan Sakai, who drew a comic then called Usagi Yojimbo, which is now one of the major mainstream furry things that's been going on, 35 years now?
Right. You don't even think of that as furry. It's so...
It's so ubiquitous out there.
Exactly.
But it is. It's an anthropomorphic world that Stan created. So that really captivated me. And 2 years later, 1991, I had gotten my doctorate, and I was doing a postdoc in Chicago. And I would call it a computer. Nowadays, you wouldn't call it that. It was a terminal, one of those things you dialed in with the telephone, and there was this thing that was just starting out, that was starting to be called the Internet. And people were beginning to reach out across these mysterious airways and meet each other. Prior to that, furry fans were small gatherings, primarily of artists, who would get together at hotel rooms during a science fiction convention. You would go to the furry party, or whatever. You would have a few friends in town and you'd hang out together. Now, these little tiny enclaves began to connect with one another. And that really gave rise to modern furry fandom, the advent of the internet that allowed us to realize we're not alone. There's a lot of other people out there who like this too.
Yeah. As you said, it's been around for millennia. I mean, going back to, I think of the Bible with Adam and Eve and the serpent in the garden, anthropomorphic storytelling.
Yeah, it was a talking snake.
Exactly, and there's a talking mule and various other creatures. So very cool. And Aesop's fables.
Aesop told magnificent stories, teaching human beings about themselves by using animals to illustrate human behavior. And he wasn't the first. We have been doing that forever. We try to use animals as a reflection of ourselves. So why not think of them as ourselves? I like to believe that eons ago, the very, very early ancestors of these folk here, used to sit together at night and ask themselves, what stories do the wolves tell around their fire?
I never would have thought along those lines. Very cool. And as you said, they're often a reflection of ourselves, and in fact, like the better parts of ourselves, like Smokey the Bear.
Exactly. Bears, they're more liable to maul you than to tell you to put out your forest fire. But that's a human thing. We want to idealize that reflection. And we want to idealize the animals. We tend to give human traits to certain species. We think of the fox as cunning and sly. We think of the eagle as noble. I used to work with birds of prey. There's nothing noble about an eagle, trust me. And owls are not wise. They're as dumb as a bag of hammers. It's true. But again, it's this age-old impression that we have, that we project our qualities onto the animal.
Very cool. So, do you have a specific animal you have an affinity for?
I have, a natural affinity toward wolves and canids. I'm a dog person. I always grew up with dogs. So I do like wolves. I've had the pleasure of meeting several, actual four-on-the-floor wolves during my day. They're fantastic animals. Pardon me, I used to work with birds of prey. There is a very warm spot in my heart for hawks. So,
and a cold spot on your shoulder after they've been there.
Yeah, that can be. Yeah. Those are the two animals really that I hold dearest in my heart.
And do you ever appear as a wolf or?
Wish I could, if I could grow the fur and the fangs. From a role-play perspective, and that's really the heart of Furry Fandom. There is a strong role-playing element to it. We create these personae, fursonas they call them.
Other than the chemist that you're appearing as now, do you have a persona that you appear as?
Well, you asked would I play a wolf or a hawk. I tried in ages past to actually play a hawk character online. And it wasn't really very successful because I know hawks very well. And if you gave a hawk the ability to talk and think like a human being, he'd be an asshole. He would, because hawks are assholes. They are. It's just part of their nature. They're not noble. No, they're like, hey, human, screw you. Okay. Sorry, I hope there's no kids watching. But when I first joined. A thing called Furry Muck online. It was the first all-anthropomorphic role-play environment. Essentially a slightly glorified chat room that started in 1989 or 90 or something like that. I joined in 1991, and I wanted it, just because of my own idiom, I wanted something unique. I wanted something that nobody else had. So I was looking around, I saw all these otters and foxes and things. Something that would stand out. So I bought Peterson's Field Guide to North American Wildlife. And I was sitting at my terminal thumbing through badger.
It's a toy of choice.
That duck. And as I was thumbing through, I noticed a movement at the top of the terminal. I glanced up and there was this monstrous 24-foot-long Asian cockroach that was sitting on top of it. It was just looking at me, and I tried to shoo it away with the book, and the little bastard reared up at me, and I said, that's a ballsy little roach. Wow. So the idea of a very, very brave samurai cockroach came to mind. So I created the character of Kagamushi, the shadow bug, the little samurai cockroach with 4 swords and all this. That is my persona, if you will.
Avoid that kind of stuff.
Very, very cool.
It's unique.
Less of a persona, more of a chiton now?
Something like that. We use the furry term as all-encompassing.
Right.
Because primarily they're mammalian, but we've got the dragons, we got the lizards, we got the avians, we got the chitinous ones. Me. But we all fall under that category of furry simply because anthropomorphic is too many syllables to say too many times in a day.
Understood.